Coach, I wanted to start on something a little bit off topic, if you don't mind. Seattle Kraken have their expansion draft today, and I'm interested in your excitement level to have an NHL team starting up this fall and everything going on these days.
We have family members that are massive Penguin fans. I actually have a couple of Penguin shirts that were good juju when the Pittsburgh Penguins were in their championship runs. So excited to have hockey in the city of Seattle. You know, am I a massive hockey fan? I would say no, but I certainly pay attention. I'll pay attention a little bit more now that they're our hometown club and I'm a Seattle guy. So pretty fired up. I know there's a lot of news out there. They've already found some players already, coach, all of that. So it's going to be exciting.
With the good juju there, I would think that a Seattle Kraken T-shirt or sweater is on the shopping list to get that good juju here for this club.
For sure, and hopefully I'll be at the first game if I can find a ticket.
All right, guys, we'll open it up from there. Go ahead and throw your questions out there to Brian.
Brian, Austin has had a trouble scoring this year, but they've, especially since they've been at the Q2, have been able to hold Columbus to scoreless. They held San Jose scoreless. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at some of their games there. What do you think the key is to them performing so well defensively, and what do you guys have to do, to be able to get some goals and come out of there with a victory?
They beat Portland 4-1, I believe, John. So there's a bucket full of goals for you against, our arch rival. What I would say is, Brad Ring's a quality guy. Beasler's been around the league for many, many years. They've got solid players. Being an expansion team, you can go, like LAFC did and, have a bunch of expensive players and, really get after it offensively, or you can do like Nashville, solid defensively. I think Austin's somewhere in between. I think they have some good attacking pieces. Certainly defending's good. It's probably a little bit of an intimidating place to play because no teams have been in that stadium. So, you kind of have to get your first time out, kind of figure out, even sometimes for the goalkeepers, the lights, and is there wind? Is it windy? What is the field conditions like? I mean, it'll take a while for MLS clubs to kind of figure out that stadium. But we'll have to be good on set pieces, manufacturing goals, playing through Raul. I mean, he's, still the leading scorer, tied for leading scorer. So he's hungry. Freddie obviously has quality. So we'll be okay. We'll try and get some goals tomorrow for sure.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask if you could, give the injury update. If there's any more word on Nuhu or anybody new that'll be able to join you there in Texas.
Nobody new in Texas, Jada, but Will and Shane are pretty close. Nico is going to have a session with Gonzo out on the field on Friday. So some encouraging news, but I think it's still, a little premature to get any reinforcements for tomorrow.
On that note, if I could, on that note, you've kind of been public about, signings, and then heard on the radio too yesterday as far as talking about the Brazilian striker. How is that kind of strategy working for you in a sense of, it seems like a change strategy in terms of being public about moves that you would like for Garth to make? Is that a change strategy for you, and how do you think that's kind of going?
No, Jackson caught me off guard with his expert questions. Look, any coach in the world would love to have a quality player. And, somebody else reported the fact that the clubs were in negotiations. So I was just repeating what was already out there, or repeating what any coach would say. And I know there are other targets that Craig and Sean and Ravi and all the guys in our office, they're looking at many, many, many different players, Jada. And so with this, I always leave it up to Garth. Those guys, Garth and Adrian, they have the contacts, they have the, expertise in getting those deals across the finish line. So we'll just see how it plays out.
Brian, what's the message of competition? You just talked about the team looking to create goals in the game, and yet there's speculation, what have you, out there about the possibility of bringing a striker in there. Just that message to the players, like, we have what it takes, and that's just a competition move. How much of that messaging goes on?
Well, I'm not so sure if I'm reading your question right, Maz, is how do the players in the current squad, when they read stuff on social media, how do you deal with that? I think it's just a fact of life. I think, they understand that this is the summer transfer window. They know that Jordan's injured and out for the year. They know that adding quality players to the roster is something that this club has done in, I believe, all of the summer windows. I don't think we've missed one, maybe last year. Alex, you can correct me on that, but we've always gone after players. And so I think it's pretty normal. I think the key there, Maz, is when and if a player comes in, it's that, first meeting, that first interaction, that first training, that first, they're kind of getting a feel for their new teammates. That's where it becomes important. That's what when the messaging has to be good, and, they're all good guys, good soccer players. They'll get along.
And then in terms of manufacturing goal with the team, the squad that you have, does anything have to change from last game?
Well, no, like I said, Minnesota is going to be a tough game. And, we didn't play our best attacking football, but, Jimmy Madranda had a chance in the first half. He could have played Raul when he shot from distance in the second half. Javi scored that goal on a set piece. When I talk about manufacturing goals, it's, basically from, being good on your set pieces, which I think we are. I think JP's delivery is excellent. And then we just have to, play to our potential, and we'll create chances. We still have a pretty darn good goal difference. So I think we'll be okay.
Coach, I'm working on a look back at the MLS's Back Tournament, which was happening at this time last year, which actually feels a little bit wild, but it was just about a year ago. I was wondering if you had any standout memory that kind of encapsulates what that whole trip and scene was like for you guys, and just as an experience in general.
Well, it certainly was different, Matt. I mean, we were in uncharted waters. I remember feeling, and talking to my wife, Christine, I felt safe. The precautions that we were taking, the testing that we were doing every day, the bubble was intact mostly. Teams had their own floors. I think our doctors, our medical team did a great job of keeping us all safe. The games were hard. That one game where I think we lost to Chicago, I mean, in the brutal heat there in the morning, that was pretty hard. Some of the games in the evening time were okay, but they had to cram so many games into a day that you had to have a couple of early games and then a couple evening games. And that was very challenging, Matt. The quality of the soccer, it was okay. Emotionally, I think the players, obviously were concerned about family and friends, and everybody around the world in this country was concerned about COVID and, how it was going to affect themselves or their family. So even through all of that worry, I think the players kind of liked the fact that the games were there. It was a distraction, a welcome distraction to kind of play the sport you love. And, I remember reading many social media posts and articles where it was good for the regular people, for the fans, to have something to cheer about. I mean, we're all stuck in our houses and apartments, and it was great to finally get some live soccer back on the TV or your phone or your computer. So challenging year in many respects. And I would say there's probably a lot of human stories within the context of our sport and that MLS's Back Tournament.
And it did seem like a lot of fans got a lot out of it once it started going. I know it seemed like the supporters were a little bit conflicted whenever you guys were kind of pushing off and your guys' send off. I know there were kind of complicated emotions there. What do you remember about that day? And are you proud of kind of how you handled that and the messaging as you guys prepared for a really complicated thing?
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember what I said, but I believe that it was, out of our control. Other people were making those decisions. We had to just go along with it. And as we're going along with it, making sure we did our jobs of keeping the players safe, keeping our, the coaching staff and the, support staff safe. I think that was the big deal for me. I mean, some things are out of your control and you just have to deal with it and do the best you can. And I think, again, our club did a great job in, hopefully my message was heard. I understand that the ECS didn't like it. They didn't want us to go. I understand that, but I'm sympathetic, but I also wanted the games to go on myself personally. And, again, the safety issue was handled very well.
Hey, Brian, what can you tell us about potential short-term contracts, emergency call-ups, whatever you want to call it? What's the roster looking like for tomorrow?
Very young, Jeremiah, very young. There will be a press release pushed out either today or tomorrow morning, but very, very young. So you go ahead and take that hint and you can write about it.
Ryan, on that, I mean, when you have a young roster, getting younger roster, how do you kind of approach the style that you play? I mean, do you still stick with the same type of formation, or do you do anything different on that end, since the players that you possibly will have weren't training with you? Haven't been training.
Jada, Wade Weber at Defiance plays the same system that we do. So the players understand what the general tactics are. Obviously, the level of competition that they would face if they got in a game is a little higher. So you try and simplify the game for the young kids. And you just want them to use their youthful exuberance and their excitement to be involved in a professional game to kind of carry into, some of the adrenaline turns into energy. And they're going to be nervous. Of course they are. If they weren't nervous, then I'd be concerned if they didn't have butterflies right before kickoff. And you just try and help them settle into the game. And their job, if they get on the field, is to work hard and, represent themselves and the club in a positive fashion.
How do you go about balancing, like looking at what's available? It seems like you either have to play a new formation, you have to play players in positions they might not be as familiar with, or you have to use players who haven't been training with the first team extensively. How do you go about balancing those sort of three competing options? Essentially, like, how do you make the best out of some suboptimal choices?
Yeah, well, I would add one more layer to that, Jeremiah. The other thing that we did is we looked at our training loads. In our normal 4-day lead into a game, Thursday falls into a match day -3, which is actually our push day in training. So we've layered on top of all of the choices that you laid out, which senior players can play, how long they can play based on, what they do on a match day -3 training load type day. And so we took the sports science, we took the emotional side, we took the, we want to win the game. We took, the youth and making sure we don't crater one of those kids by putting them in some place where, where they might not be able to handle it. It was a pretty long discussion, a little bit longer discussion about who's going to start tomorrow amongst us coaches and the medical staff. It took us a while to come to a starting lineup, but Jeremiah, I'm very comfortable and confident in the group that I'm going to put out there. And then we're going to turn around on Saturday and put out another strong lineup against Sporting KC.
Other questions, guys?
Yeah, I have a follow-up from Minnesota game in reading some reports regarding the confrontation that Adrian had with AB. Adrian had said that he thought that AB was faking an injury. Did you have a conversation about that, or where is that kind of right now as far as on AB's side?
That's all settled, Jada.
Final call, guys. Anything else for Brian?
Well, just one last one. You mentioned taking a long time to get to the starting lineup. As far as I know injuries and call-ups and things have been something that you've long dealt with. Is this the more challenging version of that, though, as far as what you're in right now?
Not sure if I follow the question, Jada, but I believe the injury report and Javi's suspension makes it 10, I believe, Alex, 10 players that are missing. Jada, that's a lot. that is a lot. So again, it is what it is. We have to, we're going to go out there tomorrow and we're going to put a good team out there and we're going to try and win the game. And then we're going to come back and then we're going to put a good team out for Sporting Kansas City. We're going to try and win that game, because if we do anything less, then we wouldn't be doing our jobs. That's what our jobs are as coaches. We have to try and, in these moments, mix and match and get the best out of the players that we have available. It's as simple as that.
Brian, real quick, at the risk of asking a question that might have an obvious answer, when you're choosing who to call up from the Defiance, what goes into that thinking? Is it purely who's most capable of helping us get a result in this game, or is there more to it? Is there more to it than that?
There's much more to it. Conversations, multiple conversations with Wade, multiple conversations with Henry, positional needs, in the planning of the 3-game week, knowing which players on our squad can play multiple games in a week, which players we might put at risk if we do that. Again, soccer players that don't have a lot of experience versus bigger, stronger, athletic guys. There's a whole multitude of things that we discussed, trying to come up with A, the call-ups, and then B, the starting lineup.